Good afternoon and welcome to Athena Voices. I am Ozon Goladi,
My name is Sarah Eke.
and today on the program we have very distinguished personalities in the person of Dr. Fabian Benjamin. He is the Public Relations Officer of Joint Admissions Matriculation Board, JAMB. Mr. Fabian, you're welcome to the program.
Thank
Can
you
you
very
hear us,
much.
Mr.
It's a
Fabian?
pleasure to be here. I can hear you. I
You're
hope you're hearing
welcome.
me
You're
too.
welcome. Yes, we can hear
Thank
you
you.
loud and clear. And
That's good.
the second personality we have on today's program is Mr. Alex Onyia. Mr. Alex Onyia is the Chief Executive Officer of Educare. Mr. Alex, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much for joining us. So today we'll be discussing the controversy surrounding the 2025 UTME results that was just released. But before then, let me just give a brief rundown of how the history of JAMB. So JAMB, the Joint Admissions Matriculation Board, JAMB, is Nigeria's central examination body responsible for conducting entrance examinations for admissions into tertiary institutions. It was established to unify the admission process into universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, and other post-primary institutions in the country. JAMB was established in 1978, and also the first matriculation exam also took place in 1978. Then fast forward to 2013, JAMB started piloting computer-based testing, CBT, to improve efficiency and reduce examination malpractice. By 2015, CBT became mandatory for all candidates. And in 2017, the Central Admissions Processing System, CAPS, which is a digital platform to automate and monitor admission processes, was also established. And here are the 6 key functions of JAMB. One is conducting the UTME for admissions into tertiary institutions, ensuring standardization in admission processes, regulating admission quotas, cutoff marks, and policies, and collaborating with tertiary institutions on curriculum development and placement. Now, JAMB has been doing living up to their responsibilities since 1978 till date. But in 2025, the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination results that was conducted by JAMB has been marred by significant controversy, sparking nationwide debate and concern. The first issue here is mass failure and technical glitches. Out of approximately 1.94 million candidates who sat for the 2025 UTME examination, over 75% scored below 200 out of a possible 400 marks. I think that's the major issue that we have. Then we also have the issue of underaged candidates and admission policies. We also have government and institutional responses, whereby the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, attributed the high failure rates to the government's stringent anti-malpractice measures, suggesting that the results reflect a more accurate assessment of candidates' abilities. And JAMB has also disclosed that certain states, notably Anambra and Lagos State, recorded the highest incidence of examination malpractice during the 2025 UTME. Consequently, 80 individuals have been apprehended for various exam-related offenses across the country. So in a nutshell, these are the issues that we'll be discussing today. It's a kind of the critical reflections on the 2025 UTME results. And who do we kick off with now? We start with the JAMB PRO, Dr. Fabian Benjamin. Okay, so
Dr. Fabian, what's the official explanation from JAMB regarding the widespread mass failure in the 2025 UTME result? We recall last year that there were about 24% of the candidates who scored 200, 200 and above. And in this year's results, we are seeing a decline, which is about 20.8% who scored 200 and above from 24%. So what explanation does JAMB have for this widespread mass failure in Nigeria?
Thank you very much for this golden opportunity. When this question is asked, I usually find it very difficult to answer. Difficult in the sense that the perspective at which commentators had asked this question is not the way we view our examination. If
Right.
you understand the psychometrics aspect of testing, you would have known that there is difference between achievement test and selection test. And in selection tests, fail pass dichotomy is usually not associated with the process. The narrator had earlier read or spoken about the contest and all these things. The essence of the contest is because candidates are feeling that if their result does not reflect their ability, they stand to be disadvantaged when it comes to the selection stage of the process. We actually don't look at our exam as fail or pass because or who has passed. Is it the person that in the final analysis is admitted that has passed the exam, or the person that has high score but is not admitted? Because there are so many parameters. For instance, I want to read medicine in University of Lagos, and somebody that wants to read medicine maybe in a newly established University of Applied Sciences in Kachia. The man in Lagos, University of Lagos, would have scored 320, and he stands no chance of being admitted. But the man in the Federal University of Kachia who has scored 270 or 280 might be admitted. So it's difficult to say somebody has really failed or somebody has passed. The statistic we roll out is for people to know that, okay, yes, this is where this particular group demography belongs to and stuff like that. But
yes.
for me to begin to look at it in the perspective of fail, pass, it's difficult for me to situate that.
We are experiencing network glitch.
Okay, you're not hearing me?
It's back. No, the network was fluctuating and
Oh my God.
you froze for a while. But we
I
can
don't know.
please go on.
Okay, what I'm saying is that it's difficult for us as an agency to look at the results within the perspective of fail pass dichotomy, because
Yes,
for us,
yes,
in selection examination you do not fail or pass because there are so many parameters that come to play. There are preferences that candidates have expressed. There are institutions that they have picked. So everybody will go to his home. What I mean by home, to the institution he has picked to go and compete there, in such a way that if you look at a candidate with 320, for instance, and a candidate with 380, on the surface of what you have asked, you will say the candidate with 320 has passed. But it all depends on where they have chosen. The candidate with 320 might end up not being admitted. The candidate with 280 might be admitted. So in the further analysis, how will you now say, okay, this person has passed or this person has failed? And at times when we push this narrative out there, the tendency for people to begin to feel that it's because of Nigeria and that person has passed because he has connection. It's not about connection. It's about the standard of the various institutions that candidates have picked. Nowhere in the world where universities are rated on the same scale. If you go to where Harvard is today, the entry requirement for Harvard might differ from another university that is within the proximity of Harvard. Same for Yale, same for Oxford, same for Cambridge. So passing or failing depends on, for me, is who gets admission that could be said to have passed, and who is not admitted could be said to have failed. So and then when you talk about performance, because people have approached us to say, are you hearing me?
Yes,
we can.
People have approached us to say, candidates are failing exam, they will want to bring some things to do so that candidate can read and pass and all this. That is not within our operation. It's like telling a referee that You see, why not do this thing so that the other player can play better? You have watched that some player are not playing well. So as a referee, I think you can do this, you can do that, so that player can play better and all this. No. Ours is to rank this candidate. What qualified the candidate for admission is not JAMB. What qualified the candidate for admission is his O level, as defined by the Arusha Convention. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board's exam, the UTME, is just to rank them. If we have another alternative tomorrow, may not even conduct the examination, and that explains why the framers of the, just as you have read the establishment of the board and all this, maybe you have left something very fundamental, that JAMB was not established even by government. JAMB was established by the university. Government only took over when they felt that, look, this agency could promote unity, this agency could promote integration of the various diversity, it will reduce our fault lines and all of this. Otherwise, the university came together and said, look, the number of applications was growing from the 1978 you talked about, from 100,000 to where we are today. And they felt that a time will come that we will not be able to manage this number. And one key reason why JAMB was established was to eliminate instances of multiple admission. Because then, without a central body, a candidate could apply to UNN, ABU, University of Lagos, University of Sokoto. And are you with me?
Yes. Okay, doctor. Let me come in there now as the umpire for this examination. We want to find out why 39,000 results were withheld. 39,000 results withheld in the UTME of 2025. Can you give us some clarity on that and tell us the nature of malpractice that made 39,000 results to be withheld?
Well, you just as you rightly captured in your background, when we migrated from the paper and pencil test to the computer-based test, we eliminated about 90% of other forms of infraction. But what was left was this issue of impersonation. Impersonation became the major challenge of conducting public examination in Nigeria, especially with CBT. When we were doing paper and pencil tests, there was these instances whereby you see some candidates will register not because they want to see the examination, they just want to have the script. Once the supervisor or invigilator shares those scripts, you will see candidates jumping through the window, bolting out with their scripts. They will go out there, solve all those questions, and then begin to throw what they call expos into the hall. And it was difficult then to juggle the questions, because everybody must answer the same question and all this. If you say you want to, juggle question, this person answering different question and all this, the cost will be too much and all this. So when we migrated to CBT, all those instances, examination leakage, people intercepting question on the way, and kind of thing were eliminated. But impersonation became the major issue. People, in fact, with this year, we even discovered what we call blending, where people will blend faces and stuff like that and begin to, so many things. So most of these candidates were candidates that were found to have either impersonated in one way or the other. At times, from the registration point of view, my practice actually starts from registration. Once you get the registration process, the stage of registration wrong, the whole examination would have been compromised. So majorly, most of them are instances of impersonation, people trying to see how they could come in using somebody's biodata to see the examination, and they were being apprehended. Because if you look at the architecture of our exam, in the halls, we have CCTV cameras, we use NIN, we use biometrics, we monitor the examination remotely from our headquarters here. So most of them, 90% of them are in cases of impersonation.
Okay, hold on, sir. We'll come back to you. Mr. Alex, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Hello? Okay. Now, let's look at technical integrity and systems failure. As someone who is deeply involved in education technology, how would you assess the technical failures reported during the 2025 UTME? Were these inevitable glitches, or do they point to deeper issues in our exam infrastructure? What's your perspective on that?
Okay, so right now, everything I'm going to say is basically all about guesses until the audit report is out, right? So based on experience, I'm working with, high-end enterprise systems for the past 11 years. And also, we have similar technology at Educare. I understand that there's actually a technical glitch, and this is definitely going to arise from the vendors. And you know, there are so many possibilities. You know, so maybe that the people who built the legacy system has already traveled abroad and probably they hired some mid-level engineers, and of course they don't know how to handle this kind of large-scale systems, and they didn't do their proper testing, and they are just deploying straight to JAMB exam because of course they are contractors. And when this kind of thing happened, they didn't even understand, and of course this affected the children's performances. So this is how I can clearly analyze it. And I mean, by the time the audit report is out, we can now know more deeply what could be the issue, how it happened. But on a scale and with experience, is actually something that strongly has to do with the vendor. JAMB is an examining body. JAMB is not a technology company. They have to rely on vendors and probably people that work with for some years. So if, I mean, you know, if you remember, this happened, I think last year with, okay, last 2 years with Boeing, whereby Boeing subcontracted, they have a software vendor who subcontracted to another vendor that subcontracted to another vendor and another one in India. And because of those issues, they were having a lot of air crashes. Remember the Ethiopian air crash and so many other air crashes. When they started going deep, they started realizing that there were like 6 chains of subcontraction for a piece of software that powers an airplane. Even Boeing itself at early stage were defending until a lot of things started releasing itself. This happens across, I mean, we don't own technology. We basically try to learn and improve across technology. So for me, this is something that, I mean, JAMB has been existing for several years. I mean, they've never experienced this kind of gap. So for them now, the checks they have to put in place when dealing with vendors, it has to be like a 4-5 step check. And also, I think having independent reviewers even before the examinations, I think is something they have to put in place so that we can also help look at these things and ensure that we don't experience this kind of gap that can put a toll on their credibility.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Alex. Dr. Fabian, please, I actually do have a follow-up question from the first question that I asked. I heard you when you said that there is no failure for JAMB examination. You know, what we do basically is divide the candidate according or categorize the candidate according to their performance. But I want us to revisit that question again. So I was actually talking about the decline in performance. Yes, students who do not meet their targets will automatically accept that they have failed because every student who registers for JAMB prepares already knows the cutoff mark they need to get admission for any course they want to study. So when they do not meet their target or the cutoff mark, they accept failure. They see it as failing the exam. So, but would you just tell us? We are consistently seeing a decline in the performance, just like the statistics I read earlier. What do you have anything to say regarding that
Well,
decline of performance?
thank you very
Yes.
much. Let me, I will answer your question and also digress a little to what Mr. Alex have said. And I want
Okay.
to appreciate him also and Nigerians. You see, we must be involved in whatever is happening in this country. And that is the only way we can build institutions. And I love the trend of things, because the situation whereby when things happen and Nigerians will just want to say, okay, throw this in away, throw this in away, I believe that is not the approach that Educare has taken. What they are trying to see is how do we build this institution to make it better, and that is what we do. We in JAMB, we are not averse to criticism. In fact, we love people when people criticize us. You know, when we started, the way we started the 55019 and 66019 was at a meeting where somebody criticized the process we are doing. He felt that it was too old, too archaic for us to be asking candidates to provide names and all this, and that they could send this in, and we adopted it. So we are always open, and we believe that through mistake or through challenges, you get to know, cross T's, and then make your system to be better. And even where there are human errors could be corrected when you discover that, look, certain things should be done differently by way of quality assurance and stuff like that. Back to what you have asked. You see, there are so many reasons why I don't want to go that line of fail past. You talk about cutoff points, that is minimum admission scores. You see, if a candidate, for instance, University of Lagos takes 200 as their minimum, and I got 180, there are so many universities that can still take that 180. The challenge we have is that people are very rigid when it comes to preferences. I've seen candidates that will tell you, if not University of Lagos, nothing. I've seen candidates that will tell you, if not medicine, nothing. They've been writing the exam for 4 years, 5 years, and there are other slots there. And that explains why our position has always been that, look, we don't even utilize some of these slots in the tertiary institution. When somebody will tell you 1 million and all these things, there are so many slots that we don't take. If you go into mathematics, physics, agriculture, education, there are so many slots that candidates don't take because of they are being fixed with a particular program, particular institutions. Candidate will tell you, I want to go to, especially when we're in secondary school, we are so carried away by this name of university, Unicar, Uniport, it sounds very nice in our ears, and if not there, we're not going anywhere. So that's why, even with your low score of, as long as it meets the national minimum, when we announce the national minimum, people will begin to, JAMB has lowered the standard. I don't want Nigerians to use JAMB as a measure of educational standard for so many reasons. One, a candidate has spent 12 years, 6 years in primary school, 6 years in secondary school, and only interacted with JAMB for 2 hours, answered only 180 questions. Only 180 questions within 2 hours. You cannot use that to begin to measure the standard, the quality of that particular candidate. Don't forget the O-level exam. If a candidate writing biology, he would have written biology 1, biology 2, biology 3, even biology 4, essay, objective, and stuff like that. And then he will have continual assessment to put up together for the exam to arrive at what the worth of that candidate. But we just examine this candidate in what I call in quote a one-chance examination. One chance in the sense that when you talk about selection examination, it's not an achievement test. It's not aptitudinal. So it's difficult for you to measure the true ability. The candidate can see this examination this hour. You give me the examination the next hour, again, you see that the performance begin to vary and stuff like that. But by and large, you want to draw an analogy that, look, performance is declining or performance. But if you look at the trend over the times, in the last 12 years, you will see that this statistical difference is not much significant from what has always been there.
Okay. Let me come back to you, Mr. Alex Onyia. Mr. Alex, let's look at the mass failure, what we term mass failure, even though the JAMB PRO is telling us that there's no failure and there's no pass. So this mass failure, JAMB says the mass failure reflects the true academic performance of students due to stricter anti-malpractice measures. Do you agree with these assessments, or do you think there is more of maybe systemic factors, or is it the accurate reflection? Yes, Mr. Alex, can you hear me?
So yes, I can hear you. So firstly, let me make a comment. In business, you are the producer and then there are consumers, right? So you are the producer, maybe may have a different understanding of the product you sell, and then the consumers have a completely different understanding. From the consumer point of view, there is pass and failure in JAMB. So what is pass and failure? If you score this from the consumer point, which is a general perspective, when you score below half of, this is graded at, by 400, right? And you are scoring below the half mark. By default, in anything in life that you are below half, automatically that is failure. But JAMB is also making a very important point. In as much as we publicly can term it failure, but in the real sense, it's actually not failure, because people even get admission with 80 JAMB score. And if they really want to now push failure for success, getting admission in the real sense is actual success. But on a normal assessment point, scoring below 200 is failure. And that is how publicly we grade it, right? Now, coming back to the question, sorry, I missed my line of thought. Can you remind me the question again, please?
Yes, I was asking whether the mass failure, whether it reflects the academic performance of students, or is it just a failure?
So I think in terms of the core academic performance of students, it doesn't reflect it. And I'll give my reasons. Aside from the glitches that we are talking about, if you've really done some kind of internal research and study, you realize that there are so many reasons people fail JAMB. One of them is people are writing JAMB for the first time, and that's the first time they are touching a computer. And the number of these people are massive. So you are trying to you only have 2 hours to express your knowledge. And within that 2 hours, you are trying to get used to a computer. Probably you've never seen, all the time they taught you computer, they taught you computer on the blackboard, right? And within that time, you are still struggling to get used to the device they use for the assessment. And at the end of the day, that also affected your performance, right? Secondly, you see a lot of issues with the CBT centers. This one will go off, this one will come on, this one will go off, this one will come on. These are not issues, I wouldn't really attribute it to JAMB. These are from JAMB partners, right? So some of these things contribute. The point is, at what scale does it contribute, right? So for me, I would really like us to wait, finish the audit, whatever the process JAMB decides to take, make sure that the actual results are done. Let's reevaluate, because I believe that this year's results should be significantly better than last year and some of the other years, because right now there are so many other tools for students to practice. Unlike before, whereby there are limited tools and limited technology. There are a lot of tools that students use to practice, and it's a lot more wider. So I strongly believe that by the time everything is being sorted out, we should notice a significant improvement in JAMB. That is my point.
Okay. You just prompted another question that I wanted to ask. Many candidates complained about poor CBT center conditions and unstable networks, as part of the reason for the mass failure. So my question is, how can Nigeria bridge the digital divide to ensure fair and standardized testing experience across the country?
Okay,
what do you think is the solution?
Yes, so I think we need to, this is why, some of the stakeholders, like maybe us, coming in can also help to be able to bring some different perspectives. We at Educare, we power over 2,000 private schools and over 1 million students. So we run a lot of high-end, high enterprise activities. So over the years, we figured out very smart and seamless ways to be able to do this. And I think we've achieved some level of efficiency on that. So based on that, we can share our ideas, right? And based on our ideas, we can combine with what they have to be able to see how we can make some very significant improvements, right? So I think this is where those kind of conversations can help, because at the end of the day, one of the 2 things I also want to request from JAMB is, I also want us to introduce a situation whereby when students write exams and whenever they publish the exams, let students actually see what they answered and the right answers. That can also help improve transparency and efficiency. So as you are seeing your results, you are seeing the right answers, right? So these are the things that I believe that are improvements. From paper to CBT, to improve CBT, to eliminating all these things by 90%, then I think there's still a lot of room for improvement that can even make it a lot more efficient. And even the registry, because aside from these things, registration can actually have a lot of friction, change of courses, a lot of. So I have my little cousin, it's already in UNN now. This little girl have not been able to change her course. She had to fake something to get her matric number because the system has not been up. You get my point? So these are areas that there are different frictions, and I think aside from their core assessment itself, I think we need to be able to clear up so that we can have a much more stable and reliable system.
Okay. Dr. Fabian, we've talked a lot about digital failure, but I want to go back there again, and this is directed at you. There were reports of significant technical failure during the exam date, but we understood that these exams that the exam is being taken in your partner CBT centers. So we are not saying that JAMB is the one responsible for the technical failures on the exam days, but were there any measures that were put in place to prevent these technical failures?
Well, thank you very much. There is no point shying away from saying we're not saying JAMB. If at all there are challenges, certainly by any of our agents, we should be responsible.
Take responsibility.
So you cannot. Hello?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So if you engage an agent and the agent, through the action of the agent, there are problems, You cannot come and then say, no, it's my agent and all those things. No, you should be held responsible. But what I'm trying to say is that to say significant technical problem is actually not correct, because we examined this candidate in 882 centers across the Federation. And certainly, even from the beginning, there is no way you conduct examination of such nature and you will not have one or two challenges. As it stands today, from the Global Association for Educational Assessment, I'm not sure even India examine candidates in that number. Even Netherlands, CITO, where CBT started from, they are the fathers of computer-based tests. They don't examine such a large number of candidates. When we talk about large-scale examination globally, JAMB is at least at the forefront. So what we do know is that no matter what you do, once you have that kind of number, you will have one or two challenges. But the most important thing is that, what have we done? Are there measures that have been put in place to ensure that if there are, then we rise to the occasion to correct those challenges and ensure that these candidates sit the examination? One, we are conscious, we're not oblivious of the fact that, look, most of our candidates are not computer literate. And that explains why the conduct of the exam itself is not a computer operation. We have limited the operation, disabled all the keys, and allow only 9 keys that we use for the examination. The major ones are the options. And then you have the 4 arrows where you can navigate. Either you want to go front, you want to go down, sideways, and all those, submit, or back to your responses and stuff like that. And before the examination, the candidates are put through. We believe that if you can operate a normal telephone set, you should be able to understand keys. And once you are seated in the hall, you are put through a little tutorial. Are we together?
Yes, we
Hello?
can hear you, sir. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. That notwithstanding, once you put your details, your registration number, the question popped up, you read your instruction, and once you get to a question, all you need to do is just the A, B, C, D of the options. And once you click an option, the system automatically moves to the next questions, and so and so. It is when you want to go back that you may need one of the arrows to go back, or you want to go for fraud. And then when you want to submit, you click your S to submit and stuff like that. So it's not a major computer operation per se. When we started the CBT, some of these challenges actually came up. People were saying that the computer literacy level of the nation is not ours. But we believe that we are far behind, that through JAMB, we could kickstart the process and ensure that people follow suit and the school's curriculum, because these things are actually in the curriculum, even with the secondary school, computer science and all these things. But some of these schools were not even taking it serious. But when we started, it became an issue that even secondary school, primary school want to put their kids, their students, their pupils through computers, because they know that in the final analysis, there is somewhere in your life that you may need to do examination and all this. And today, globally, most schools, if you want to do examination, you either sit computer tests, either remotely or stuff like that. There are so many ways that this thing can be done in a very simple way. But you see, we are inhibited by the nature of people that we are as Nigerians. Nothing stops. Technology has made it possible that you can sit as we are sitting like this and you do examination. You don't even need to go to any hall. We toy with the idea of what we call BYD, bring your own device. You come with your own device, sit down and do your examination. But there are so many challenges. That explains why you see every year we do review. We adopt this principle that we say if the bird has learned to fly without perching, the hunter should also learn to shoot without missing. I will give you an example. If you go to CITO, the Netherlands, where they do their terminal examination, just like we do our SSC here in Nigeria, the examination body, the CITO, does not carry question around to school. What they do is to send the questions to the principals of these secondary schools. Those principals will administer this question on the candidate, even mark the scripts, and only send the result to the examination body for the examination body to compare certificate and issue to this candidate. Simple and short. But my brother, if you try that in Nigeria, that principal will create one kiosk somewhere and he'll become a millionaire. He'll be selling those things everywhere. So the nature of the people we are has actually reduced the way we should have taken advantage of technology. That's what people will tell you when we are doing research. In this age, why are you subjecting people to all these things? Not as if we don't know what to do. We know what to do, but because of the kind of system that we operate in this country. For instance, when we talk about results management, for decades, up to today, we don't store our results in the cloud. All our results are stored off the cloud, because that's the only way. It looks primitive, it looks traditional and all this thing, but it's working for us. And that explains why it's difficult for anybody to tell that you are hacking to our system to change whatever scores are all this. Even the contestation that we're having now, it is not about somebody saying somebody has either reduced my score or increased my score. It's about saying that, okay, something could have happened, that either my responses were not actually taken into account and stuff like that, but not the management of the result itself. And I believe by the time we come out with a report, Nigerians will know the actual picture of whatever had happened or had not happened, who had done something or who didn't do what he's supposed to do.
Okay, Dr. Dr. Benjamin, that's a very good perspective. But let's go to our viewers. One of our listeners just asked a question, and he is asking, his name is Leberowa or Lawale. He's saying, why can't students get their scores immediately they click submit?
So that is a CBT.
Yes, yeah. So at the CBT centers, why can't students get their scores immediately they click submit? So I want Dr. Fabian to answer that question as the JAMB PRO.
Well, it is possible, but I bet you it's going to cause more confusion. Don't forget that the questions are 180. 180 over 400. It's a national examination. There are things that if I tell you here, it will get you more confused. In a national examination, there is what we call normalization of scores. If we leave this place, go and Google, I will leave that to you. Go and Google it, normalization of scores, and you understand what I'm talking about. Yes, you can give the raw score. Candidate can have the raw score. We are doing it. When we started in 2013, we were doing it. Immediately you click submit, your raw score pops up. We do examination, we do third-party examination for other agencies. As it is today, the postgraduate school of surgeons, the postgraduate school of physicians, with headquarters in Ghana and all those things, their examination for qualifying consultant. If you say consultant today, whether gynecologist, endocrinologist, whatever you can call him, the qualifying exam that qualifies him to be a consultant, that examination is being administered by JAMB. So some of these bodies globally, MTN, NMPC, and all these things, internationally, some of them ask for scores to but for us, because there are so many processes, exam malpractice, filtering of exam malpractice, infraction here and there, and so many things that is being done. And that is why, and when we started initially our giving score, we had a lot of challenges. Candidates will begin to break up. All of that. We were giving it in percentage, but we discovered that it was causing more problem either there or after or stuff like that. But it is a possibility. It is a possibility. And from feedback, if we get feedback that pushes us and say, look, this is what everybody wants, why not? We can do it.
Okay, Mr. Alex, what's your perspective on that?
Oh, yes. So while listening to him, he made mention of something that makes a lot of sense when he talks about, part of the normalization, when he talks about the filtering, like malpractices and the rest. If you issue results immediately and tomorrow you say this person was part of malpractice, I think that may introduce a lot more friction. So, however, I think it's something that maybe the algorithm that is being used to be able to filter those malpractices can actually be significantly improved, so that if you are part of malpractice, immediately you are done, you automatically know. So this is something that can start an import. Having your result real life, is something that everybody would so much love. So as you're writing your exam and you are seeing your result live, and probably seeing you see your results first, maybe a week later or 2 weeks later, when everybody is done, they can release even the answers and everything to avoid any form of malpractice. This is actually the ideal way, and the Nigerians will love it better. So it's just to be able to now think deeply, because there's already a system of the normalizations and the malpractices detection. Is to be able to say, okay, how can we improve on this at scale? Whereby once this happen, maybe we can just flag them for review. So if you didn't see your own is flagged for review. So by the time the review is done, either you are being removed or your result is out. So that flagging can actually be an intermediate solution for those ones that may have those issues. But for students to see their results immediately, I think it's something that everybody would really, really love.
Would appreciate. Okay.
Okay. Dr. Fabian, so we learned that JAMB is currently carrying out an audit. My question would be, what steps is JAMB taking to ensure transparency in this review and investigation?
Thank you very much. In fact, I'm even itching to leave because they're calling me left, right, and center and all this. So I was told it's 30 minutes. Well, we're almost by the grace of God, by 3 o'clock this evening, we should be able to state a position of whatever we have done in the last 3 days. We are looking at it holistically. In fact, if you are here, you will see what we are doing. We have gone over the scripts and of every candidate, center by center, region by region, to see if there are glitches and all these things, or there are human issues and all these things. But I don't want to preempt whatever it is. Let us just be patient. One thing I want to assure Nigeria is that we as an agency, we have a policy that we believe that we can make Nigeria great. And where there are voices to anything that we have done, we always listen to that voice and ensure that we look again and again. And that explains why we have a policy of even remarking script, not today. When people are talking about remarking, we've been doing that over and over and stuff like that. So we are not always right. Hello? So we're not afraid to open our doors for people to come and take you through. We'll take you through the process you see from the deployment of questions to how we mark our scripts, how we grade our scripts. We can even show you the online script. You'll see it. You will see the responses. We match it with the questions and the responses and stuff like that, all those things. So for us, we believe that we'll keep getting better when everybody is interested in what we do. Criticism is not, I don't think, we don't feel, unlike how others feel, we don't feel like people that criticize us actually are our enemies. We don't look at it that way. We feel that if somebody is saying something, rather let us ask him again to explain further. There could be something that he's seeing that we have not seen, and that way we can make the system better. At times, even a madman, there's a proverb in my place that somebody had a challenge with his car, and 2 or 3 of the nuts of one of the tires were not there. And he was thinking of how will he get nuts to do that, and he was so stranded. And the madman came and told him, I said, look, why not remove one from each other and then from the other 3 and then put on this one? So we believe that once you open up your system, you benefit more and you make it better. It's a public institution. It's not for you to hold it as if it is your personal estate and then begin to see everybody that say, no, you're not doing this thing right, as an enemy. No.
Okay, Doctor, we'll come back to you. Just one more question before you go. Now, Mr. Alex, let's talk about solutions and the way forward. If you had the opportunity to advise JAMB directly, what 3 key reforms would you recommend to restore credibility and efficiency in future UTME exercises?
Okay, so firstly, I don't think I can be able to make a clear recommendation yet. So firstly, by the time the audit reports are out, and we have a much more in-depth understanding of how the systems work, right? Now, that is where we can start making some key recommendations. The only thing I know here is a lot of the current processes, like we just talked about, letting students see their result. I think that is very critical and it will help enhance transparency. That is one. Secondly, we also need to review the registration and the change of courses, some of these processes. I know that there are reasons behind every single action they take, but I think that we can make a lot of significant improvements. because I should be remembered when you want to register. There's okay, try midnight, it's not going, it goes, some of these things. This is 2025. You should be able to be that just the way you log on to your Twitter or any of the platforms, and it will always be reliable. We need to be able to establish that level of reliability across. So when we have people see their results, that makes transparency easy. Children at rest. What you see is what you wrote. If there are issues, you can flag and any other thing. Secondly, the registration processes, change of courses process, all these things needs to be streamlined. This other issue of people have been trying to check their results for different weeks. If there are issues, if your exam or your result is under review, system should be able to tell you that your result is under review, and probably the review will be sorted within the next 1 week or 2 weeks or even a month. But let it be that system clearly helps you manage expectations. So this will help to reduce different kind of frustrations, because I've seen all kinds of frustrations. Then also the actual administration of assessments itself. Maybe they need to actually review even how the partner, the CBT center requirements and some of these other things. So that for me, the goal is registration should be seamless, assessment should be seamless, scoring should be seamless, change of courses should be seamless, everything should be seamless, so that we don't get people to struggle unnecessarily when we probably can solve this in a much more simplistic way.
Okay. So comment, please. The Dr. Fabian. So I'm just going to read out a few comments and then you just respond, and then we close it. We call it a day from there. So we have a comment saying that the question, since the exam is being conducted in batches, that it looks like some batches are being favored more than the others. And the person cited an example of physics batch A having about just 10 question that involves calculation, and the other batch having question that involves about 40 calculations. So he's saying that, I mean, if there's going to be calculation, there shouldn't be one batch shouldn't have more. Yes, yes. And we also have a complaint that says my son said his questions were not complete and his computer booted. He rebooted while he was taking the exams, and this is also a form of an example of some technical glitch during the examination. So it looks like the Nigerians are currently, losing their trust or their confidence in JAMB or not. That do you have any comments? What do you say to people who are actually feeling bad about the JAMB right now?
The issue of questions, somebody having calculations, there's what we call calibration in psychometrics. When you are doing CBT exam, certainly you're going to have a data bank, a question bank rather, item bank. They call it item bank. What that means is that you need to have so many questions, otherwise you won't be able to do CBT, because the examination stretches over a period of time, and you must have questions so that you won't overuse the questions or expose the questions and stuff like that. And one thing that you do in developing a data in an item bank is that you do what they call calibration. Calibration is that there's something they call difficulty level, that your questions must have the same difficulty level, no matter what form they are. You develop your software always in such a way that your questions, even if you have them in 20 forms, that's different badges up to 20, the difficulty level must be the same. When you talk about difficulty level, he is looking at it, the question that has calculation is the most difficult question, but it does not follow that way. Somebody will pass the question that has calculation and fail the one that does not have calculation. You would have solved the calculation and then fail the one that does not have calculation. So what we do is to ensure that we have the same difficulty level. Then the other thing is that if, for instance, for any reason, you have a challenge whereby you're supposed to have 40 questions and then there are 35 questions, the system has also made provision to address such. Don't forget, I've told you earlier that it's a selection examination. All you need to do in grading is to grade that questions, that particular batch, those of candidates that have 35 questions instead of 40, over 35 instead of over 40. So it does not take anything from them. We've had this system over and over. This one, okay, just remove it and then you grade over the remaining questions and stuff. So in the event where you have that kind of challenge, there's also a solution to address it. So certainly, because we know that there could be, if you look at our system, we've envisaged different forms of challenges, and we have provided answers to all these things. So in psychometrics, if you have questions like in mathematics, you could have 10 million questions in mathematics, 10 million questions. And the essence is that it's difficult for any malpractice. Even the person in the system, you won't even know which question you are going to ask. But if for any reason a candidate stumbles on 10 million questions and is able to know all the 10 million to go and sit and solve them, then that is not malpractice, which means the candidate is brilliant enough. So you don't need to. We're almost getting to a stage whereby we begin to do open book. Open book in the sense that if you give a candidate maybe Gocholion, the geography textbook, and then you give him 1 hour questions in Gocholion, and if the candidate can flip through the book and know where the answer is, which means he has read the book. So the issue of having different difficulty level and all this does not arise. The questions are calibrated to the same difficulty level.
Yes.
Yeah, I also
Thank you so much, sir.
have something to a recommendation on that. I think having consistency is very important, in as much as the system are designed to carry these things. So I mean, these are part of the technical conversations because this is a lot more technical, right? So I think having consistency as a standard is very important. I think it's very critical that JAMB review it, because if everybody answers the same 40 questions and also have the similar rotational patterns, these are different questions, but the same difficulty level, the similar rotational patterns, the ones that has calculation are 10 in mind, yours is 10, different questions, but let's say that those kind of distribution and consistency, I think it will help, because these are tiny issues, and these tiny issues are much more large, right? So I know that this is experience, I mean, because we also have experience in conducting large-scale assessments, and because we're a private organization, we pick these things very quickly, and we see how it kind of changes the whole testing system. I think it's something that JAMB may have to look at, even if it's not now, sometime in the future. That consistency is something that will really help. There's something somebody mentioned here, and I think it's also important. When Dr. Fabian, somebody said that NDA is going to pick people from
Comments.
Yeah, the comments, yes. And I think it's something that will help if you can address. NDA is having shortlisting their people this week. If there's a way JAMB can write NDA and tell them to delete, that will really
No, we usually have, don't forget that NDA, they use our result. So what that means is that if we don't give them result, the candidate need not to be afraid of anything, because NDA cannot do their selection without our result. It is a university, they must. So even if they are going to shortlist, what they may likely do is just to shortlist blindly, believing that everybody has scored the requirement and all this. But before they do anything, at times what they do, if we have delay, they will come with a number of candidates that has picked them, and they will ask for the result of such candidates and then go into the exercise. But you know, it's a government rule that admission cannot start for whatever reason until the policy meeting. And the policy meeting is usually in June, where the minister chair the meeting on behalf of Mr. President, and then that's where you have the aggregation of all the tertiary institutions, where the minimum cut-off point and all this in the guideline for the admissions have been determined and agreed upon and stuff like that. So they have no fear. NDA cannot do anything without us giving them the go-ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Fabian. Thank you very much for your perspectives, and we believe that our viewers and our listeners out there, they really had a wonderful and a very good enlightening afternoon concerning this controversy surrounding JAMB. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much,
Dr.
Mr.
Fabian
Alex.
and Mr. Alex.
Thank you.
Onyia,
Thank you very much,
Educare.
and I look forward to being with you people again.
Oh, thank you very much. We'll appreciate that. Okay.
Thank you.
So that is
Bye-bye.
all we have for you today on the show.
And to our viewers, thank you for joining us. We are happy to have you be part of this conversation.
And let's continue the conversation.
And we are expecting JAMB reports from the review. They said by 3 o'clock they should be ready.
We'll also make that public on our platforms.
Yes. So let's all wait till 3 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
So from me and Sarah, it's goodbye. See you some other time.
Bye.
Thank you.